The story begins with a group of friends, carefree and skeptical by nature, embarking on what should have been a routine camping trip. They've chosen a remote forest, far from the noise of civilization, drawn by the promise of adventure and the thrill of the unknown. But before they even set foot on the trail, they are met with an ominous interruption. An old park ranger, his face lined with years of weathered experience, steps into their path. His voice carries a weight that makes even the most dismissive among them pause, if only for a second. He warns them, in no uncertain terms, to stay away from a particular part of the woods, a place marked by twisted trees, an abandoned structure, or perhaps an old trail long since closed off. The locals, he says, avoid it for good reason. Some things are better left undisturbed. But the friends, fueled by youthful arrogance and a shared belief that superstition is for the weak, laugh it off. They crack jokes about ghost stories and haunted forests, teasing the ranger for his outdated fears. One of them, usually the most vocal skeptic, makes a show of mocking the warning, declaring that they'll go wherever they please. The ranger's expression darkens, but he says nothing more. He simply shakes his head and walks away, as if he's seen this story play out too many times before. As the group hikes deeper into the woods, the warning lingers in the back of their minds, but it's quickly buried under laughter and the excitement of the trip. They don't notice how the birds have gone quiet, or how the air feels unnaturally still. They don't question why no other campers are around. By the time they set up camp, the ranger's words have become nothing more than a punchline, a funny anecdote to tell around the fire. But as the sun dips below the trees, casting long, skeletal shadows across the ground, the first prickle of unease settles in. One of them swears they hear a whisper just beyond the firelight. Another catches movement in the trees, something that darts away too quickly to be an animal. The laughter dies down, replaced by uneasy glances. The warning, it seems, was not just an old man's superstition, and by then it's already too late. The fire crackles in the center of the campsite, casting flickering orange light across the faces of the friends. The air is thick with the scent of burning wood and the faint, earthy dampness of the forest at night. At first, the mood is light. Jokes are traded, drinks are passed around, and the earlier warning from the ranger is nothing more than a ghost story to embellish for fun. But as the night deepens, so does the silence of the woods around them. One of them, usually the most observant, the one who always notices things the others miss, stops laughing mid-sentence. Their head tilts slightly, eyes narrowing as they stare into the blackness beyond the firelight. The others pause, listening. At first, there's nothing. Then, a rustle, not the wind, not an animal, something with weight, something moving deliberately. One of the friends scoffs, tossing a crumpled beer can toward the sound. Probably a raccoon, they say, but their voice lacks its usual confidence. The others laugh, but it's forced, uneasy. The fire suddenly feels smaller, the circle of light shrinking against the pressing dark. Then, a branch snaps, too close. The group falls silent. The skeptic grabs a flashlight and swings the beam toward the trees. The light cuts through the shadows, illuminating twisted trunks and grasping branches, but nothing else. No eyes gleaming back. No figure lurking. Just an empty forest that feels anything but empty. "We're being watched," someone mutters. The words hang in the air, heavy and undeniable. A cold prickle runs down their spines. The fire pops, making them jump. One of them tries to lighten the mood. "Maybe it's the ranger pissed we didn't listen," they joke, but no one laughs this time. Because deep down, they all know, whatever is out there isn't human. And then, From somewhere in the trees comes a sound that chills them to the bone. A low, breathy chuckle, not from any of them. The flashlight wavers, the fire dims, and the first night stretches on, endless and watchful, as the forest holds its breath, waiting. Morning arrives like an afterthought, the weak sunlight filtering through the trees in thin, hesitant streaks. The group stirs, sluggish from a night spent half awake, jumping at every creak and whisper of the forest. The fire has burned down to embers, and the air carries a damp, clinging chill. It takes them too long to notice. At first, it's just an absence, an empty space where a tent should be zipped shut, a sleeping bag left rumpled but cold. One of them calls out, a joke already forming on their lips. "Hey, lazy ass, you gonna sleep all day?" But there's no answer, only silence. Then the realization settles in like a slow creeping frost. Their friend is gone. Not just gone, vanished. No note, no struggle, no sign of packing up in a hurry. Just an abandoned tent, the zipper still half open as if they'd stepped out for a midnight piss and never returned. The others fan out, calling their friend's name, voices rising in pitch as the minutes stretch with no response. The forest swallows their shouts whole, giving nothing back. Then one of them sees it. Footprints, clear at first, pressed deep into the soft earth, leading away from the campsite, then abruptly stopping, as if their friend had simply lifted off the ground mid-step. Beyond that, nothing. No drag marks, no broken branches, no sign of an animal attack. Just an end to the trail, as though the earth itself had opened up and taken them. And then, the worst part, scratched into the bark of a nearby tree, jagged and hurried, like someone had dug their nails in deep. The decision to look for their missing friend isn't a decision at all. It's a reflex, a desperate denial of the impossible. They tell themselves there has to be a rational explanation. Maybe he wandered off in the night, disoriented. Maybe he's hurt somewhere nearby, waiting for help. Maybe. They split up, because that's what people do in stories before everything goes wrong. The forest feels different now. The trees loom taller, their branches twisted into grasping shapes. The sunlight, so bright and welcoming yesterday, now filters through the leaves in sickly, uneven patches, casting shadows that seem to shift when no one is looking. The air hums with a silence so deep it rings in their ears. One of them finds the first clue, a scrap of fabric snagged on a thorny branch, their friend's jacket. It's torn, as if yanked with terrible force. A few steps farther, the underbrush is trampled, leaves smeared with something dark and damp. Not blood. At least they tell themselves it's not blood. Just mud. Just rain. Another stumbles upon their friend's phone, half buried in the dirt. The screen is cracked, but it still lights up when they press it. The last thing recorded is a voice memo, 5 seconds long. They play it. At first there's only static, then whispering. No, not whispering. Breathing. Ragged, wet, right against the microphone. And beneath it, something else. A sound like laughter, but wrong. Garbled, distant, yet somehow right behind them. The phone dies. The third friend doesn't find anything at all. Just an endless stretch of trees that look the same no matter how far they walk. They swear they're moving in a straight line, but when they turn around, the path behind them is gone. The woods have rearranged themselves. The air grows colder. Then, a voice. Their missing friend's voice. It calls out from somewhere up ahead. Weak, frightened, alive. They run toward it, crashing through branches, their pulse roaring in their ears. The voice grows louder, closer, leading them deeper into the trees, until it stops. They stand there, panting, staring at a clearing they don't recognize. The ground is bare, the earth packed hard. In the center, something is propped against a tree. A shoe, their friend's shoe, empty. And then, from right behind them, so close it brushes their ear, "You shouldn't have followed." They spin around. No one is there. But the laughter lingers, drifting between the trees, as the forest closes in around them. The remaining friends regroup at the campsite, their faces pale, their voices hushed. The forest no longer feels like just woods. It feels like a living thing, watching them, breathing around them. They argue in frantic whispers. One wants to leave immediately, to run back the way they came and never look back. The other insists they can't abandon their friends, not when they might still be out there, hurt and waiting. But the truth hangs between them, unspoken. Whatever took them wasn't human. As daylight begins to fade, they make a decision. One last search before nightfall. Just a quick sweep of the nearest trails, calling out, hoping for an answer. They stay close this time, within sight of each other, their flashlights cutting shaky beams through the dimming woods. That's when it happens. One moment, all three of them are there. The next, a sound. Not from the trees, not from the shadows, from right beside them. A whisper, so soft it might have been the wind, except for the way it curls into words. Turn around. And one of them does. Just for a second, just a glance over their shoulder. When they look back, their friend is gone. No scream, no struggle, no footsteps fleeing into the underbrush, just empty space where a person had stood a heartbeat before. The remaining two freeze, their breath coming in sharp, panicked gasps. The flashlight beam darts wildly across the trees, but there's nothing to see. No sign of movement, no sign of life. Then, from somewhere above them, a sound, a thump. They look up. There, wedged high in the branches, is their friend's backpack. It wasn't there before. It couldn't have been. They would have seen it. But now it hangs, swaying slightly, as if just placed. As if whatever took them wanted them to see. The last two don't wait any longer. They run. But the path they came in on is gone. The trees seem to twist in place, blocking their way, guiding them deeper. And beneath the sound of their own pounding footsteps, they hear it. Laughter, soft at first, then louder, coming from everywhere at once. The last two survivors stumble through the forest blindly, their lungs burning, their legs weak with terror. The trees seem to press in closer with every step, their gnarled roots rising up to trip them, their branches snagging at clothes like skeletal fingers trying to hold them back. The laughter has faded now, replaced by a silence so complete it feels like the forest itself is holding its breath. Then they see it, a small, dilapidated shack half buried in the undergrowth. It wasn't there before. It couldn't have been there before. But now it stands like a wound in the earth, its door slightly ajar, as if waiting. They shouldn't go inside. Every instinct screams at them to run. But desperation overrides fear. Maybe there's a clue here. Maybe there's a way out. The air inside is thick with the scent of mildew and something older, something rotten. The walls are covered in newspaper clippings, yellowed with age, their headlines screaming about disappearances, about hikers who never returned, about warnings ignored. In the center of the room, on a rickety table, lies a leather-bound journal. Hands shaking, one of them opens it. The pages are filled with frantic handwriting, the ink smeared in places as if by tears or blood. The entries tell of a group, just like theirs, who came here years ago, who laughed at the warnings, who vanished one by one. The last entry is a single sentence, scrawled in a trembling hand. It wears their faces to lure the rest. A floorboard creaks behind them. They turn. Standing in the doorway is their missing friend, alive, unharmed, smiling in relief. "Thank God I found you," they say, stepping forward. But the journal slips from their grip, hitting the floor with a thud. Because the friend who vanished wasn't wearing a jacket when they disappeared. And this one is. The journal hits the floor with a sound like a gunshot in the suffocating silence. The thing wearing their friend's face tilts its head, its smile stretching a fraction too wide, its eyes reflecting the dim light in a way that makes the survivor's blood turn to ice. "What's wrong?" it asks, taking another step forward. Its voice is perfect. The same cadence, the same slight rasp from years of laughter around campfires. But the words drip with something beneath them, something hungry. The last survivor stumbles back, knocking over the table. Newspaper clippings flutter to the ground like dead leaves. There's no time to think, no time to scream. They bolt for the door, shoulders slamming into the thing as they pass. For a heartbeat, they feel its form beneath the skin. Something wrong, something shifting and hollow, and then they're outside, sprinting into the trees. Behind them, the forest erupts. Branches whip at their face as they run, the path twisting in ways that defy logic. The trees seem to lean in, their roots rising to trip them, but they don't stop. Can't stop. The laughter is back, but now it's different. No longer playful but furious, a chorus of voices that aren't quite human. They sound like their friends. They sound like the ranger. They sound like everyone who's ever vanished here. Then, miraculously, they break through the tree line. A road. A real paved road, cutting through the wilderness like a lifeline. A car approaches in the distance, headlights slicing through the dark. They scream, waving their arms, their voice raw with terror. The car screeches to a halt. A stranger leans out, eyes wide. "Jesus, are you okay? What?" They don't let them finish. They scramble inside, slamming the door shut, gasping out half-coherent pleas to go, just go, now. The tires squeal as the car peels away, the forest shrinking in the rearview mirror. For the first time in days, they breathe. But then, a whisper, so soft it might be the wind through the cracked window. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" Their blood freezes. Slowly they turn toward the driver. The stranger smiles, and their eyes are all wrong. The car speeds on into the night, the road ahead endless, the trees lining it just a little too close, their branches tapping against the glass like impatient fingers. The survivor doesn't scream. They know no one would hear it anyway. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.